Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Val. Not giving up.
Okay, all right.
Never do.
Never surrender. Never give up, never surrender. Oh man.
I'm like too dressed up for this episode. I need like a football jersey on.
Sorry, I was gonna like change, but I just walked in from the gym and I figured, no, this goes with this episode.
That's what I'm saying. That was not directed towards you. That was me saying, if we're gonna do a sports movie, what am I doing in a 3-button shirt? What the heck?
So you guys are all looking nice, and I look. If you could smell me right now, I would smell like the movie Rudy probably smells. A little bit of good feelings and sunshine, and just a whiff of like junior high adolescence.
I don't know. In some of the locker room scenes, it might have been more than a whiff.
But I put deodorant on today, and I showered yesterday, so like,
yeah,
like I said, a little,
yeah.
And I did drive home with the windows down, so I have that little bit of like fresh cut grass. Yeah.
It's that time of year. I like the smell of fresh cut grass this time of year. It's kind of fun. Last year at this time, it was just depressing. So this year it's
I think I actually mowed my first lawn this time last year.
Oh, really? I
had never mowed a lawn before because I'm not allowed to be around that kind of equipment that has blades and things. And
smart.
So I mowed my first lawn. It lasted a couple of months, and then I was like, "This is stupid."
That's why Jake has so many kids.
Yeah.
My dad went out and did it today, so he felt good that he went out and like did something. But
I got to get mine done.
Yeah. I like actually mowing our lawn. We got an electric lawnmower last year, maybe the year before. It might have been the year before, and I just really enjoy using it, and so it's kind of fun to anyway. But
because it really doesn't need you except for to guide it in the right direction. You can't put it in auto drive yet.
Yeah, it's close. Gotta get one of those robot lawnmowers.
Yeah, why don't we have like they have with the little Roombas? Like they do?
Yeah, there's little lawnmowers.
Are they like $1 million? Oh, I think I've seen them. They're little like green.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. I've heard they don't work that great, but
yeah, and I think you have to have a pretty small lawn for them to work. Yeah. So, but speaking of lawns and grass, we are talking about Rudy, who did the job at Notre Dame, taking care of the grounds of the football stadium. So it works. It all ties in together, right?
Well done. Good segue.
Yeah. So
That's a way of saying, let's get on track.
Well, not necessarily. We can still keep
at least 17% of our show is not on track. And I think that's why people love us.
Yeah.
Because we do us all the time.
It's true.
That's right. Yeah, so this is our last of our transformation movies. And I really went back and forth as far as which one to pick. And I ended up landing on this one. In a lot of ways, Rudy doesn't transform a whole lot because his goal is to play football at Notre Dame, and he's fixed on it, and that's what he does the whole movie. But really, watching him go from someone that everybody looks at and says, you can't go to college, you're not smart enough to make it, to graduating from Notre Dame and getting carried off the field is a lot of hard work on his part, and the transformation that he has to go through. And for whatever reason, I had totally forgotten. We are kind of bookending this month. We started with a Jon Favreau movie.
Yeah.
We're ending with a Jon Favreau. And this
if you're ever going to be sandwiched between someone, it should be dual Jon Favreau's, because it's just genius on both sides. And we've seen that he can make a really good sandwich. But I do think that this movie, when you think about our theme, and as I watched it again this last week, because I hadn't seen it in a couple of years, I think this movie is more about him transforming the minds and the people around him, more than it is about really transforming himself. He knew what he wanted, and he worked and worked and worked to get it, and that is really hard. But I think all of us know how hard it is to do things when there are so many people around you that are just stuck in this is what it is, this is the way, you can't do that, you don't fit into the mold, you don't, all the don'ts. Like, there are so many don'ts in our life every day, and a lot of people give in to the don'ts, and it takes a really persistent person to change someone else's don'ts to a do.
Yeah.
And so I think him, like, transforming just the thoughts and minds of people around him is big, because even in the stadium, think about that. You're in a stadium of people that probably don't know who this kid is. Like, there's a lot of hype, right? And then all of a sudden they see him go out there and do it. Like, even if one or two people in that stadium was like, oh my gosh, well, if he could do that, then I could do whatever, And I think that was us watching the movie. Like, what is your Rudy moment in your life?
Yeah.
Well, and I've been going to a U of U basketball games and football games since I was a kid, and it's really fun to watch late in the season if there's a blowout and they put the walk-ons on, and the student section will start chanting their names to get them out there. And every time they touch the ball, everybody's like, shoot it! Even if the guy's covered, they just want to see him get up on the scoreboard. And so, yeah, that's I love that actually happens.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it is true, like the mindsets of the people around him. And that's really one of his big challenges, right? I love the scene where he is wanting to go visit Notre Dame. Like, yeah, that's where I want to go to school. So he shows up to the bus, and the priest talking to him and is like, all right, let's go for a walk. Look, some people just aren't cut out for college. Sorry, you can't even go on the tour to see if it's something you're interested in. Like, this is for serious students only.
This is not a sightseeing tour.
I've never wanted to, let me take that back. This is the third time I've ever wanted to punch a priest in the face.
We won't ask about the other two.
I mean, I went to Catholic school, so I went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that. No, I just, like, this, like, brings me in a whole different topic, and I won't go too much off on a tangent, but this movie, I think now that I've watched it as a little bit older and my child is a little bit older, this movie makes me angry in a lot of ways, because I feel like kids get put in these categories going through school. And I think we've talked about it before, but like, when a kid is marked a problem child, or, not so smart, or maybe they're a little too sensitive, or they're a bully, like we automatically put people and kids in these categories. And I just think that's awful to do to someone as they're still trying to figure out their life, like while they're still in school, right? I get we've got to, those are around for a reason, and we do need to be smart and kind of labels, whatever. But I feel like when people are still trying to transition into their life, telling them that they're not good enough without letting them even try something is like the worst thing you can do to a kid, outside of, other worse things. But like, just stifling a kid, telling them you can't even go on the tour.
Right.
Like,
well, and they had labeled him at that point, even in the class that he's sitting in, and he says, this is the problem with dreamers. They're often dreaming, but they're very rarely doers. And like, nobody, and I know this was a different time, and unfortunately I think it still happens today, nobody tried to figure out why he struggled in class. It was just, well, yeah, he comes from a blue collar family. This is who he is. This is, these are the gifts and talents that God gave him. And so that's just who he is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not until he gets to college when his buddy Debach, Jon Favreau, is like, yeah, I think you've got dyslexia. And he goes and gets tested and finds out. And that, I'm sure, was a huge reason why he struggled.
Yeah. It's a huge struggle. And the thing is that most teachers don't know how to see dyslexia. I wasn't diagnosed that I had dyslexia until halfway through high school. And finally, one of my teachers set up an appointment with my counselor, and she's like, I think Valerie has dyslexia, because when I give her all the tests, she's great. But when, this and this, like just spelling and phonetics and all that kind of stuff was awful for me. So it it made me shut down when it came to certain things. But I tested out of everything. Like I could have graduated a year early. But, teachers, especially in elementary school, treated me like I was stupid.
Right.
And I wasn't. But you know who else was a dreamer and struggled a lot in school? Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, like Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not saying like we just need to be like everybody gets an award. That's not the attitude that I'm making. But like, how many kids are we that are like Rudy because they're not jerks? They're so well mannered and they're so soft spoken, but they have more to give, but they don't know how. Like Steve Jobs, yeah, he struggled, but he was also cocky. So whatever, like he pushed his way through. But not everybody that's like Rudy and Steve Jobs, like two totally different people, but have something more to give, It's really frustrating. I got really frustrated watching this movie. I think this is the most frustrated I've ever gotten watching this movie, just because it meant I was looking past all of the stuff I had seen before into the real life notions. But it's a feel good movie, obviously. But
right.
Sure, it is. But I think that a lot of those frustrations are there. And that's, I think that's the really challenging thing for me is he is going against physical limitations, obviously. I mean, when he shows up to try out and you see, or even when he's just walking by the teams walking by him as they're coming off the field, and the size difference between those players and him, like it's incredible. And so obviously
it's like The Rock and Kevin Hart.
Yeah, exactly. It was similar to that, very similar. And you see that and you're like, man, I mean, obviously there were some physical limitations, but a lot of the limitations that really held him back were the ones that other people put on him and didn't give him the opportunity to do. The moment where he's sitting with his dad, Otis, and they're talking, not Otis, but Otis from Superman, right? Okay.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, exactly. But as he's sitting there talking to him, and you feel like, and they've got the music going too, so you feel like this is going to be this great, like feel good, heart to heart. He's getting ready to go to school, talk, and his dad's going to be like, I just hope you do the best you can. No, his dad's like, look, you're a Ruettiger, and there's nothing wrong with being a Ruettiger, but we just like don't go into dairy farming. That's stupid. Just stay here and work where your family can watch out for you. Don't chase your dreams at all. Like, but the music behind is like this, like feel good, whole house ending type music that you're like, oh, this is going to be a special moment. And it's not. It's totally like, just stay home.
But I feel like his dad thought he was doing something to benefit him. I think, especially back in that time period, there was a lot of like, stay with your family, be, with a family support system. And I don't think he wanted his son to be hurt, both mentally or physically. And I think, his dad probably wasn't taught to learn outside of their means. You know what I mean? It was like, you're going to grow up and you're going to do this and you're going to have a family, and then they're going to grow up and do this, and then they're going to have a family. It was just kind of this wash, rinse, repeat. And, I think he knew that his son was special. You could tell that, and that he cared for him. But I just think, I think he was trying to say, look, we are who we are, and it's okay to be who we are. And I think that's a great thing to tell your kid as well. Right. Like Sammy, we're a bunch of weirdos. And other than when I'm dancing, I fall up and down stairs, and that's going to happen to you. Like it's okay. Like be you and be yourself. But I think, just wanting him to say at the end of that, like, whatever ends up happening, I'm proud of you. Like, no matter what, like, yes, we are Ruettigers. This isn't really what I imagined, but like, I'm here when you need me, kind of thing. And maybe that's what he was saying in his own words, but yeah, you're right. Like the music comes on and you're thinking, and then you're like, oh.
Yeah. And I agree. I do think his dad was doing the best he could and really wanted to protect him and keep him safe. But yeah, it was a fun moment, interesting moment.
Yeah.
Fun moment's probably not the right word, but
I do feel like the college experience back then was a lot different than the college experience is now. USC is the closest I've ever gotten to like an Ivy League school to see how like the campuses are and everything. But I feel like It was really clean. Like it was. I feel like schools are not that clean.
So I don't know about a lot of the campus, but I have been to Notre Dame. It was 10 years ago or 11 years ago when Utah played football against Notre Dame at Notre Dame. My dad and I drove out there.
Nice.
And it is one of the most beautiful campuses I've ever
Yeah.
seen. It is like,
But like, is the lunchroom that clean
I
all
don't know.
the
Like I
time?
said, I didn't experience all of it, but like it is one of the nicest campuses I've ever seen. And as far as a road game goes, one of the most welcoming crowd
Oh, that's cool.
I've ever experienced. Everybody, we were in Utah gear, obviously, and we'd run into people in the hotel or at the game, and everybody was just like, "Hey, good luck today. We hope your team does well." Like, welcome
Oh,
to
wow.
Notre Dame. And I've heard it's not like that when USC comes, but like anybody else, but I mean, it was just a great experience. And walking into that stadium was just incredible, and it was awesome. I mean, it's definitely something that if you have the opportunity to go and do it. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, but yeah, it was cool. And then Utah lost by a lot, so it was kind
That's
of
probably why they were so nice to you, because they just knew.
no, most of it, like Utah was like nationally ranked going into the game, and
Oh,
Notre Dame
really?
wasn't.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of the people were like, "Oh, your team's going to just cream us today," but hopefully we'll do okay. We just don't want to embarrass ourselves today. And then we lost, and it was it's still a neat experience, and it was.
Did you see Regis Philbin?
No, I didn't see.
Dang it!
I was there. No, unfortunately.
Every time I think of Notre Dame, I think of my school, my high school that I went to, because it was Catholic high school, and everybody like wanted to go there. And then I think of Regis Philbin.
Yeah,
that's just.
Yeah, and I think that the college experience at someplace like a Notre Dame is different than a lot of other colleges. Like University of Utah is very much a commuter school, and the cities right around it.
Yeah.
South Bend is all about Notre Dame. Like it is, that town exists.
It's a college town. Yeah.
Right.
I think it'd be really neat to go visit. Was there good food there? I just want to know about the food. Was the food
was
good?
amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
It was great.
All right.
Everything was great. Like seriously, if somebody says, "Hey, you want to go to a game at Notre Dame?" Just say yes, because it's awesome.
I'm in.
So
they're like, "It's curling, but do you want to go?" And I'll be like, "Yes, I do."
Why not? No, but yeah, but I do think that the experience, obviously it was Hollywoodized, and it probably isn't as clean as it looks on screen.
Yeah.
Outside it looked nice. So
well, I've been to the USC campus, and I thought that was a gorgeous campus. The neighborhood around it is sketchy as all get out. But
I lived in that when I was 17. I had no problems though. Like, yeah, you could like literally be like, okay, we're gonna another ambulance in 3, 2, 1, and because we'd be shooting student films, and we would have to like record around the ambulances. But no, it was a really cool campus, and I stayed off campus, so I did have to stay kind of in the sketchiness and walk. But I thought it was very welcoming in a weird way, but I think it's because they knew I wasn't from there. Like I was like really fluorescent braces, 17 years old, walking back and forth, and everybody just treated me great. But yeah, I think I kind of, it made me miss like being in school watching Rudy. Anybody else? Or you're like, I'm glad I'm out.
I look back and I'm like, that song was my college. Like I remember hearing that when I was in college. That wasn't that long ago. And then I'm like doing the math in my head. I'm like, nope, never mind. That was a long time ago. It doesn't feel that long ago. Like I had like one time when I was at KUTV, I had one of we had some song somebody was playing. It was like not even Blink 182. It was like Collective Soul or something. And I'm like, oh yeah, this was big during my college days. And there's one kid is like, oh yeah, I kind of remember hearing this in elementary school. I'm like, shut up.
We went to a Collective Soul concert in high school. It was awesome at Saltaire.
Ooh,
with Live and Cake.
Yeah.
Oh, Live is my jam. I love that.
Live.
Jam, huh?
Great.
Yeah, Soul and Live, they went big when I was in middle school. That's when they hit the scene. Because Live had Throwing Copper and yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely think watching it, there were moments where it's like, yeah, because my college experience wasn't anything like that. By the time I was at an actual university, I was married and we were living in student housing, but I think going to college as a married student is very different than going to college as a single
Oh, I
student.
bet.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Like, I think watching it as a kid, I always thought that's what college would be like, is what you see in Rudy. And
yeah.
yeah, so it makes you feel nostalgic. And I think just because this has been around for a while and I've seen it so many times, it definitely makes me feel nostalgic when I watch it.
I do think that Jon Favreau's character doesn't get enough credit in this movie, because he was his friend no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know that Rudy was as good as a friend back to him. Like, I kind of feel like it was a little one-sided when it came to some things.
I could see that. Yeah.
So Rudy kind of is like that with a lot of his relationships, though, in this movie. He's
like super like highly focused.
Yeah, he's focused on his goal, and anything that doesn't build to his goal, he just doesn't care about. Like,
Yeah.
he helps Stevach out because that's what's going to help him get his grades that he needs so he can get into Notre Dame. Like, he'll go talk to girls for him only because that's what he has to do because he can't afford the tutoring that he needs.
Yeah.
Right.
Not because he's going to help him out. Like, there's nothing. It's weird. He has some weird relationship.
Favreau got a lot of free laundry out of that friendship.
That's true. and he met his girl.
He did meet his girl. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And he has to say GD now instead of.
Yeah, I remember. I forgot. I'm not allowed to say that no more.
I mean, hashtag truth. You know what I mean?
This was the introduction of Vince Vaughn's film career. This was his
this is where they became really good friends, Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn. I think they had met on a short film that they did right before this, and then they got into this movie together, and then 2 years after this, they made, I think it was 2 years when they made Swingers, and Jon Favreau had lost like 150 pounds, like in those 2 years that did they write it together?
I think so. Yeah, I think that wrote it so that they would have something.
But it was just this crazy transformation of Jon Favreau, where I feel like getting this movie kind of transformed him into getting in with the people he needed to get into, but also getting that push that he needed that confidence to believe in himself, because he was doing a lot of shorts, I believe, before this.
Right.
And I can't remember what school he went to. But like he was already trying to make a name for himself. But yeah, I think this is kind of where him and Vince Vaughn, like their relationship really got bigger, if I'm correct.
The romance started here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Screw you, Rudy. We're going to go make this other movie. You can go be a hobbit.
I forgot Vince Vaughn was in this. So he pops up. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
And you realize his head, it wasn't always that big. Like, it just got bigger.
Bigger with time. I am at a loss. I can't remember who he is in this movie.
He's got a real small part.
Yeah,
it's
teeny tiny. Players. Yeah, I'm like, oh, and then I had to go look it up. There was a couple people in it. Now watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, they're all such babies, but I don't know any of their names. But I was like, oh, I recognize these people.
There's one. Let me pull it up.
Jon Favreau definitely looks really, really young in this one.
Yeah, he's a baby.
Yeah,
he really is a baby.
Like, oh my gosh, he looks so young.
Lily Taylor, the lady who plays Rudy's girlfriend at the very beginning.
Yeah,
before he goes to Indiana, she's done a lot of great stuff. She's a great character actor.
Yeah,
so it was fun to see her pop up in that too.
Well, it seems like a lot of the actors in this, like the two head coaches, the one that promises him, and then the one Dan Devine who comes in after, like they're actors that you've seen them in stuff, but you don't always remember what you like. They just stick out to you when you see them, and they're just great character actors that do a good job in the roles that they're in. His girlfriend is another example, like you said, Tracy, and she's she's so funny too. They're looking at the house and she's like, look, I've put in the time.
She just goes straight to it. I love it.
Well, and I think that's just the community that they live in, right? Where everybody's just very pragmatic. Like, this is what you do. You go to work at the mill, you get a house, you get married, you have lots of kids. This is what we do in our community.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was just the one that broke that mold, you know?
Yeah.
But speaking of Divine, I was reading up on this, and evidently Divine actually agreed to put Rudy into the game, and the players never came up and put their jerseys on the desk and threatened to quit.
That never happened. Yeah.
But he, being a friend to Rudy in real life, in order to help get this movie greenlit, agreed that he would be the villain, if you will, and allowed that to occur, that little retelling of history, so it'd be a little bit more dramatic at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, anytime that you're watching a movie that's a biopic type movie like this, there's going to be dramatizations. They're going to take artistic liberty and stuff like that to tell the story they want to tell. But yeah, the whole team didn't come in and drape their jerseys on the desk and say.
But it makes for a great moment.
When a movie doesn't say documentary, it means that maybe 50% of the movie is correct, and the rest of it is just to make us want to watch it. When you watch the Elton John biopic, people don't just jump out in the middle of the street and start singing.
Maybe not in your neighborhood.
No, they have a couple times.
Do they do that in West Valley City?
In Taylorsville? Sometimes, yeah. No, but I mean, like, I think it's so funny when people get so angry. Well, that's not exactly how it happened. Well, no kidding. This is a movie. I watched Mortal Kombat the other day. I'm pretty sure none of that was real.
That's not real?
No.
Well,
but
because I've been working out. I've been trying to get my Arcana going, and
it was so funny because I watched that, and then I watched Wyatt Earp while I was cleaning the kitchen, and Wyatt Earp's brother's like, finish it, and I wanted him to pull a spine out of somebody. I was like, Mortal Kombat, you have ruined me.
Finish him.
I've watched Wyatt Earp. Like, I just turn that movie on when I just need something fun to watch.
My mom always warned me that Mortal Kombat would ruin you. Like,
they've been telling us for years.
Yeah.
Those congressional hearings proved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of good things about Mortal Kombat. A lot of people have really enjoyed it.
It's fun.
It's bloody.
Yeah.
It's bloody, but I like that they spread the blood out. Like, it's not just like a current, like, just slasher film. But like I was telling Tracy before, if you saw my review on Good Things Utah that I also reposted on my Facebook page, I gave it a B. It was just a lot of fun. It's not something that I think you should take your littles to. I mean, if your family is older, but there was a couple times where I went like this, because I knew they were going to smash a guy's head together, and they did. But I thought it was fun. So.
I did a double feature with Mortal Kombat and Nobody.
Oh,
so I got all my verses out.
Wow!
Did you enjoy Nobody?
Nobody was fantastic.
It was so great, right?
So good. Yeah, Bob Odenkirk, man.
That's a good little back-to-back right there.
I was pretty happy with that little. Yeah.
Thank you, HBO Max, for letting me get out all of my pent-up aggression safely.
And then he watched Trolls 2 because he needed something.
Well, then I need a palate cleanser. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I do when I need one. It's Moana.
That's
if I have to go screen some like slasher film or something that's just a piece of crap, I go home and turn Moana on.
I remember you did that after the Michael Myers movie, the Halloween.
I did it also after Us.
Okay.
That movie scared me. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be good. Like, asking people, we should ask that on our Facebook page or on like Instagram story. Like, what's your palate cleanser movie?
Yes.
Because I have a few of them. That one, Chef, and Pride and Prejudice, I kind of rotate through those. But like, yeah, we should do palate cleanser movies. Like, I'd like to see what other people have, because I can add it to my list.
Yeah.
I like that. Jake, do you have a palate cleanser?
I don't know. Well, I don't know that I need a palate cleanser as much as you guys do. I typically.
That's not true. Don't your kids watch the same movie sometimes over and over, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Usually then for me, if it's something like that, I'll go to some some old movies that are standbys for me. Like Star Trek First Contact is one that I'll probably put on a lot as a palate cleanser. Like I just need to get away from whatever it is. Superman 2 was one for me for a long time as well.
Nice.
So
that's a good one.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be from a slasher film. It could be, I am done watching Frozen for the 67th time, and I really need to watch Rocky. Like, I need you guys to all go and do something because I'm going to watch Rocky, and I need you not to talk to me.
Yeah, Elsa does not let it go yet, so.
Gosh. We did go on a long, I mean, Let It Go was a well-played song in our house for a while.
When I first saw that movie in the theater, I thought, that was a really nice song. And that's going to drive a lot of parents crazy for a long time.
Yeah.
And what sucks is, like, as a parent now, like when I was a parent, I could just lose the DVD or the VHS, or I could lose the CD that Sammy wanted to play over and over. But now they're just like, they're iTunes, you know, it's just streaming. There, you can't get rid of it. It's there. I feel so bad for parents right now.
I feel like my daughter has found like a YouTube playlist that is just different versions of Let It Go. Like
probably
covering it. I don't know. It's
the techno version.
Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
I think techno music is stupid.
Although the original Mortal Kombat theme song was awesome.
Yes.
That's good techno.
Listen, it came out right when I was a cheer coach.
I
was in high school doing dance company, but I also coached cheer and I also had dance thing. Is like, it was so freaking old. Like I was just done with it.
That makes sense.
I feel like somebody had to go in and ban it.
Yeah. It wasn't like a lot of years that it was played consistently, but for the time that it was, they
played heavy rotation.
It was like 2 years, every single person was dancing to it, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, true. But now there's the YouTube version with the kid that made it. That's my favorite. Where he did all the different parts.
I'll have to.
Oh yeah. I actually read an interview. Somebody tracked down the original voice actor who did the Mortal Kombat Scream and did an interview with him. And the guy was like, when we did it, the game wasn't out yet. This was a commercial to promote the game. So he's like, it wasn't until years later, somebody's like, are you the Mortal Kombat guy? He's like, wait, what?
How did you know? Because I just scream all the time randomly. How did you even tell? Buying your groceries. Mortal Kombat. Can I finish my order? Finish it.
Yeah, there wasn't enough spine pulling out of bodies in Rudy, you know?
There wasn't. In fact, there wasn't any. But the practice squad, though, they got beat up pretty good.
Yeah.
There was some really nice cinematography in this movie, though.
Yeah.
Like, there's some really nice, subtle shots. Like, the scene where he's trying to buy the football ticket, and he's like, I'll give you $10. And the guy's like, yeah, you're $90 short. So he goes up to a kid, I'll buy it for you for 10. And the kid goes, I want 20. Anyway, after that scene, as he's walking away dejected, the camera just gets on a crane and just slowly lifts. And we're seeing the side of the stadium slowly lift. And at the end of that, you have all these people inside the stadium enjoying it. And then he's walking by himself. There's just a few really nice moments like that.
That's what I call the high noon. They did the high noon. Yeah, that's the high noon shot.
Absolutely.
And I think some of those shots that they get in mixed with the music that's in this is really what makes the film as iconic as it is. Because, I mean, the story's great and it does make you feel good and I love it. And Sean Astin, I mean, I'd like to just sit down and have a meal with that guy sometime.
He's a really nice guy.
Super nice guy.
Yeah. We had him here for FantasyCon and he just wanted to talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Like, he was so great and so nice. And he went out on the floor of the convention and just shook people's hands and like just
he did
really giving.
You guys set up a 5K and he wanted to be a part of it. And so he's just out there just running the 5K with everybody. I went up to get a autograph from him for my friend who was fighting cancer, and she was a really big fan of his, and she wanted a Rudy photo. And so when he said, which one do you want? And I said, the Rudy one, he was like, oh, cool. I don't get as many of those anymore. He's like, I get a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff, which is great, but really fun to do a Rudy one. And so I started to tell him, this is for a friend of mine, and started to tell him that she's fighting cancer. And like, dude teared up and was like, oh my gosh. And he writes this really nice, long personal memo to her about how you're a warrior and you can do this, and you're going to be like Rudy and run out on the field, and signed it. And I was just like, yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a really good guy.
Fun. Yeah. And
he looked young in this movie.
Yeah, he did. Really I mean,
like, this is like
as he looked in Goonies, but
right.
this movie.
There's not been a huge, but between Rudy and Goonies, or Goonies and Rudy, there wasn't a huge change.
You got to go right into 50 First Dates right after you watch Rudy, and look at pump.
You're getting some guns there, Val.
I'm working on it.
Yeah,
I'm working on it.
Dang, girl. Way to go.
Oh, sorry, my mic's in the way.
Well,
I can't really see it in the tattoo arm very well, but tattooed.
Well done.
Those are some pythons.
I want to be able to pull a spine out of a priest. I'm just kidding. I don't ever want to do that.
Just the one priest on Rudy.
Yeah.
I think later he realized, like, again, he was like, okay. But no, I don't hate priests. Don't write me like.
Well,
I have respect for the order.
And the thing is, I mean, honestly, and not to get off on a tangent about priests necessarily. I was going to say not to get off on priests, but that's not what I mean at all. Not to get off on a tangent about priests. Like there are two. You've got the ones at the school. They're like, look, you're a dreamer. You can't go to Notre Dame. And then you've got the one that he meets at Notre Dame, who kind of takes him under his wing and is very mentorly, like to him, which is one of my favorite conversations in the whole movie when he's talking about, so why do you want to become a priest? He's like, oh, no offense, Father, but like, no,
that's not for me.
I just want to play football at Notre Dame. Oh, okay. Well, have you tried talking to the coach? But yeah, he ends up, really taking him under his wing. And there's a lot of faith building that goes on between Rudy and the priest. I mean, even at the end where he says, if I don't get in this time, I'm not going to get in. And, have I done everything I can? Have I prayed enough? And he's like, I'm sure that's not the problem. And
right.
It's a nice relationship to see that one develop over time.
Yeah. Well, and I think it is good to be realistic with kids. I don't like to tell a kid, like, you can grow up and be whatever you want. Because that's not true. Like, I will never play in the NBA for the Bulls. So, like, myself, I am not tall or male.
Right.
like, I do not. I can play a good game of horse. I played basketball at Catholic school, and those girls are mean, so I know I can hold my own. But, like, there's no way that I'm going to grow up and play for the Bulls, right? So I do think that there's something to be said about being realistic. And I think a lot of people in Rudy's life were just trying to be like realistic with him. But I think not letting someone at least go try out, like there were a lot of things in high school or junior high that I just went and tried out for because I just wanted to see, you know what I mean? Like you learn a lot from trying, and I think letting a kid fail, like try your best, but fail. What are the things that you're learning along the lines of that? Okay, you can't play for Notre Dame because your body's just not an athlete's body, but you got out there, you tried, you learned all these other things. So what else can you do for your love of the game with Notre Dame? Like there's so many other things you can do other than be a player, but you're not going to figure that out unless you try.
I almost want there to be another version of this story, maybe in an alternate universe where Rudy goes and he tries and he never gets to go out on the field because there's the moment where the groundskeeper is talking to him. And he's like, you've got your head so far up your butt. You've gotten a top grade education. You've been out with the best football team in the land. And like, you can't even see all the great opportunities that have been there for you because you didn't get this one thing. And the hard thing is Rudy gets that one thing at the end. But what would it have been like, and what's the lesson you can learn from giving it your all
and not getting it.
and not getting that, but still seeing and appreciating the progress that you've made?
Yeah.
and the
Because that's
transformation
most
that
of
you
us.
made. Yeah.
That's most of our lives is we're going to try really hard and we're going to have a plan and we're going to try really hard to get there. And then we don't get there. And if we're just like, okay, well, my life's over now, like that's not realistic. You know what I mean? You figure out something else that you like to do because of all the things that you learned on trying to get to the one thing that you did. And I think sometimes, you know, I tell people this all the time when I teach. I go to colleges for like business and marketing and stuff. And, you know, you have a plan. And just like any event, you're going to plan this event out. And 40% of everything you plan is not going to happen the way you planned. And if you're so stuck on the plan, sometimes you miss out on some of the best things that happen because of mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I love like doing events so much, because sometimes the best moments we've ever had at events is because something didn't go as planned.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it went off this way. And if you let it and you go with it, you know, and you're okay with being flexible with your plan, you experience some really, really great things. My whole life is based on like the plan not going the way I planned it and me just saying, okay, let's jump on this train.
But
let's jump on this train.
As a result, you got to sit on the same couch as Billy Boyd.
He laid on me. Like
I know.
We had a therapy session. So like, yeah, like that was not my plan at all. And some of the best moments in my life are because I went with the detour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think something that people miss in those kinds of things is what we see in this movie, and what I've seen knowing you, Val, and seeing behind the scenes is the amount of work that you're doing behind the scenes. Because it may be like the thing wasn't planned, but it happened because you were working really hard toward a goal, toward something that was planned, and then something else happens that turns out even better. And I think for Rudy, like his plan was to go play football for Notre Dame, and getting a college degree was just something that happened along the way.
Yeah.
But then 4 of his younger brothers went to college after him. None of his brothers before him went to college.
Yeah.
He opened that door and showed like, this is the possibility and this is what you can do.
Yeah.
That wasn't his plan, but by accident that did happen. And I think that's
How many of us would love a Notre Dame education?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like again, just following college football, there's been a couple of kids that were between like Utah and Stanford. And I'm like, come to Utah. And then they go to Stanford and it's like, I can't blame the kid, because you get a Stanford degree and you're going to get doors open to you that you're not going to get from the University of Utah, Notre Dame, USC. There are certain schools that you have that diploma next to your name and there's some real opportunity there.
Yeah. Stanford was my first choice.
Yeah.
Like I went there my senior year for a debate tournament, and a Palo Alto, you know, that campus is just absolutely amazing. And I didn't get in, and I applied for the University of Utah and I didn't get in, and I got into the summer program at USC, and my parents were like, you can go to this summer program or we'll buy you a car, this used car that you want. And I picked the education.
I love that.
And I was 17 years old. It was 10 days after graduation. I was at USC, you know, and it wasn't my first choice, but it was, okay, I didn't get this. So what can I apply for now? And luckily they took me. And then I applied to go to an art school in San Francisco, which I got into along with my boyfriend at the time. And we were both going to go out to San Francisco to art school together. And then I got pregnant. Like it wasn't the plan, but it was a detour. And I got to tell you, like, she's the best detour I've ever had.
Sammy's awesome. Yeah.
Like I should have named her middle name Detour, right?
So I think you probably did her a favor by not doing that.
I wanted it to be Sky is what I wanted it to be. Samantha Skywalker. But I wasn't winning that battle at all.
That's really too bad, because then people could ask her what her last name is, because random strangers do that all the time, and she could hyphenate it and be like Skywalker.
Yeah. And now she hates Star Wars, so I guess I did her a favor.
That's probably
it's one of the few things you did wrong, Val.
Val did that.
You.
I know.
No, I think it's better that that's not her name. But yeah, no. So I think this movie was really great watching it at different times in your life, because the first time I saw it, I was really, I was younger. And then, you see it kind of in college or in my 20s, and it's a different kind of inspiration. Now seeing it in my 40s, it's a total, it makes you feel something different every time you watch it, depending on where you are in your life, which I think that accounts for just a good movie. You know what I mean? That makes you feel different every time you watch it, depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember watching this a lot as a kid, and, I wanted to be Rudy, and I wanted to, accomplish those goals and those dreams. And like watching it now, some of the things that stood out to me was like his dad. And like when he brings the acceptance letter to his dad, and he's like getting on the microphone at the mill, and he's like, my son's going to Notre Dame, and he's like all proud of him and everything. And like I look at that now as my kids are getting older, and I think about all of the things that they've done and accomplished, and it's like, yeah, I know what that feels like to be like, my son did this or my daughter did this.
Yeah.
And those are kind of and when he walks out, when his dad gets off the bus and he's looking up at the stadium, and it's just like, I see things differently in a different perspective now at this point in my life. And yeah, I agree, Val. I think that's what makes this such a great movie, is that at different times in your life, it'll mean different things to you. And anyway, and I still cry every time I watch it.
Nothing wrong with that, friend.
No. My wife gives me a hard time for it. And in a loving way. Like,
stop crying, baby. Is that what she says?
No. She just kind of
I couldn't imagine her saying that at all. That's why it was so funny, because it would be so out of character. You would just look at her like, who are you really? Are you a Skrull? Are you a Skrull? Because you're not my wife.
Yeah. No, it's more just like, she knows that I've seen it so many times, and it still makes me emotional, and she just kind of just laughs at that, because it is funny, but
I love that.
It means a lot,
Yeah.
Right. I love that.
But,
oh man, it was a good month. I liked this month.
Yeah, it was fun. Next month is going to be a crazy month, but what were you going to say, Tracy? I cut you off. I apologize.
I don't remember. No, you're fine.
Okay. I was going to say, next month is going to be a crazy month, because we've got Utah Remote Con, and so that puts a whole, that's our plans for May, basically. and Craig has us coming on and doing cast off as part of Utah Remote Con for a couple of episodes, and so we'll see how that goes. It'll go awesome. I don't mean to make it sound like we'll see how that goes. It's gonna be great. Yeah, no, not what I meant. I need to get that sound effect on my board so I
can record it for you. We can. My friend had me do a goat. My friend that went to USC with me had me record me doing a goat noise when I was at USC with him when I was 17 and he was 28. My best friend Mike, and he still plays it as his ringtone on his phone. So when I call him, it's me making a goat noise.
That is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
That's true friendship right there.
It is.
Well, we do need to give this movie a grade. So Tracy, what would you grade this one?
Really enjoyed it. Holds up well. By the same director who did Hoosiers. Little slower paced, but the acting is phenomenal. Love Favreau. Sean Astin is just fantastic. Just because it's a little slower pace, I'm going to go A-, but that is still a really good grade.
Yeah, that's a great grade.
Yeah. I enjoyed this movie, and I do love that it made me like angry this time, and like I have different feelings when I watch it, because that's what a movie should do. Like it should make you have feelings and emotions and emote things from you that you didn't think you were going to feel. I give this movie like a B+. I think it's great. I could watch it like once a quarter if I needed to, once a year. But there are some parts in it that I do think make me a little too angry right now, or else I would give it like an A- as well. And it is a little slow in some parts. But I do like, it is just a beautiful movie to watch. And I just think it's like a classic. Like you could put it in a classic setting. You can't put every movie that we talk about on here in like a classic movie setting. But if you're talking about like some of the best movies ever made, I think a lot of people would say Rudy, like that movie would come up. You know,
especially
a lot of people
in the sports genre. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I love sports movies, so like B plus for me.
Yeah, as far as classics go, I mean, recently it's Rudy and Rubber, really, as far as
yes, come to the dark side.
By the way, really quick, I saw a really bad sci-fi movie, Val. If you, this isn't I don't think it's a Jake film, but if you and your former boyfriend want to watch it, it's called Psycho Goreman. Psycho.
Okay.
Goreman. And it's about an ancient alien who is trying to take over the universe, who gets trapped on Earth, and a couple of kids discover him, and they find the bracelet or amulet that controls him, and he has to do what they say. And it's awfully, but it's really fun, stupid.
Yeah. Tracy posted a picture of this on his Facebook. And somebody was like,
okay.
What is this? And so he posted what it was, and I went down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out what the movie was. And it was a trip, let me tell you. So
it's like Doctor Who monster movie. It's sorry, Dick, your grade.
My grade for this, I can recognize what you're saying, that at parts it's slow. And maybe it's not a perfect movie objectively speaking, but for me personally, it's a perfect movie. If I can sit down, I watched this last Sunday in preparation for this. I could have watched it 3 more times this week if I had the time, and it was just as enjoyable. And this is probably I don't know how many time that I've seen it. So for me, this is an A+ for me. Like I have to rate it that high, because it is one that if it comes on, it doesn't matter what point in the movie it is, I can start quoting it, I can start watching it, and it's just
nice
experience for me. So probably one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm really glad we got a chance to talk about it. So
I'm glad you suggested it. I hadn't seen this in years, so it was really cool to go back and watch it. And I got hit with some memories because this came out in '93, the year I graduated from high school. So it brought back some memories that was great.
I don't want to alarm you, but there is someone flashing hand signals behind you, Casey.
Yeah, I tried to subtly shift there. That's Miss Lisa's on the couch.
I missed
it. Saw this hand come up over here.
That's perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, everybody. If you haven't had an opportunity yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all the social media sites. We love to interact with you there. And we hope you have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. We won't see you at the movies.
This has been a Stolen Droids Media production.